even to the global financial brokers themselves, that currency is apparently slated to be replaced in the not-so-distant future by some new regional or even global fiat currency for which the names Amero and Phoenix have already been touted. Such an eventuality will relegate the United States to a subservient economic position in the world, controlled by a supranational tyranny of corporate finance that allows Americans no representation whatsoever. So yes, they are unloading the tea, and even worse than that, on America once again. So what needs to be done? Americans must reassert their own control over their own money, rid themselves of the Federal Reserve System, and reject out of hand each and every scheme for some new regional or global currency. Unfortunately, to eliminate the Federal Reserve System will not be as easy as burning the Gaspee at Namquit Point, or dumping the tea from the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver into Boston Harbor. As the recent presidential election must now have taught even the dullest among our countrymen, real change, that is, actual reform, has nothing whatsoever to do with choosing one of the two major political parties' candidates over the other. Even if the two parties were not simply one party, the fascist party of supranational high finance and globalized corporate big business, depending upon party politics would amount to nothing more than playing their game of divide and rule. The time for political parties is gone, and good riddance. Now America needs a mass political movement based not upon political parties, special interest groups, and other antisocial factions, but upon we the people themselves. A movement that finds its inspiration, direction, and above all, legal and moral authority in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, because those documents are the embodiments of we the people's will, the statements of we the people's political power, and thus the guarantors of we the people's national independence, individual liberties, and economic welfare. So this must be a movement of and for self-government. Self-government can no longer be the theory on which this country operates. It must become the actual practice. For if Americans do not govern themselves, others will govern them, and in a way that serves those others' selfish interests at every good American's expense. Ultimately, I believe this movement must center on revitalization of the constitutional militia of the United States. For the Second Amendment instructs and admonishes America that a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. And nowhere does the Constitution identify anything else as being necessary for America's security and freedom, or for any other purpose for that matter. Not Congress, not the President, not the Supreme Court, not the political parties, the militia of the several states alone. Therefore, Americans can disregard this unique declaration and direction only at their imminent peril. What then is the course Americans must follow to disestablish the Federal Reserve System and return this country to constitutional and economically sound money and banking? Well, the first step, as always, is extensive, comprehensive, and intensive public education to dissipate most people's ignorance and confusion concerning the subject of money and banking. All too many Americans have simply forgotten, if they have never or ever learned, what a real dollar, a constitutional dollar, actually is. And nothing better illustrates the plight of the average American than to ask him, what is a dollar? It's amazing what kind of responses you'll get. Of course, the first one is the George Washington Federal Reserve note. This is typically what people will identify as a dollar. But why should it be considered a dollar? Simply because the word dollar appears on it? Well, also, on it appears the word note. And note means a promise to pay, not the thing promised. Presumably, the thing this Federal Reserve note promises to pay is $1. So, is $1 a promise to pay $1? Moreover, a statute requires that this Federal Reserve note be redeemed in lawful money. Presumably, the lawful money in which redemption is made is $1 because this is what the Federal Reserve note promises to pay. But if lawful money redeems this $1, then the note itself cannot be lawful money. And if the lawful money is $1, then the Federal Reserve note cannot be $1 either. Now, here we have the familiar 𝐃𝐸𝐲𝐸𝐴 coin. Right? This coin is an actual thing composed of copper and nickel that calls itself $1. It's not a mere note that promises to pay $1. It was actually first authorized in 1997. Now, here is a Morgan silver dollar. This coin also calls itself $1, but it contains 371¼ grains of fine silver. United States dollars of this metallic content were first coined in 1792. Now here we have a Liberty, Walking Liberty. This coin also calls itself $1, but it contains 480 grains of silver. It was first authorized in 1985. Here we have an American Eagle. This coin calls itself $50, but it contains 480 grains of fine gold, that is 9.6 grains, or 1/50 of an ounce, per nominal dollar. It was first authorized in 1985. So, is $1 a piece of paper that promises to pay $1? Or is it a coin composed of copper and nickel? Or is it 371¼ grains of fine silver in the form of a coin? Or is it 480 grains of fine silver in the form of a coin? Or is it 9.6 grains of fine gold in the form of a coin? Or is it all of them? And if each and every one of these things is somehow $1, then what is common to all of them that makes each of them $1? Well, certainly it isn't their physical content. One is composed of paper, the others are composed of various metals. And there's not their economic value in the marketplace either. A George Washington Federal Reserve note is a promise of a bank to pay $1, but although a $1 Federal Reserve note has the same purchasing power as the base metallic 𝐃𝐸𝐲𝐸𝐴 coin, it certainly does not have 1/50th of the purchasing power of a $50 American Eagle, or even the same purchasing power as a $1 American Liberty or a Morgan silver coin. Moreover, each of the coins asserts that it has the value of one or more dollars, but the purchasing power of a nominal dollar in gold is greater than the purchasing power of a nominal dollar in silver, and the purchasing power of either is greater than the purchasing power of a nominal dollar in base metals. Yet each and every one of these coins is authorized by Congress at this very instant. So is this melange of coinage? What single thing or measure of economic value is $1? Or is anything at all that has the word dollars stamped on it $1? Simply because Congress and the Federal Reserve System so decree? Well, anyone with even the most tenuous hold on reality is able to comprehend the intellectual chaos, absurdity, and downright fraud in this system. Let me give you a simple example. Here is a card which says 1 cow. How now? Is this a cow? All right. 1 cow by order of Congress. Any more of a cow? Well, increase the abstraction. 1 cow by order of the Federal Reserve Board. One cow by order of the Federal Livestock Board. This is legal tender for all debts, public and private. I take it that one does not have to be a farmer to see the absurdity in this sequence. Quite obviously, there was no cow whatsoever involved here. Only a great deal of bull. Now apply the same commonsensical analysis to the present monetary system.